Hello everyone, it's Michelle Lupton here with another card for Case Me a Christmas card for 2021. So today my guest is BreAnn Loveland, who you may know as the owner of the inkstand, the inventor of the inkstand along with her husband. Anyway, today I'm going to be casing one of her Christmas cards. So I usually don't do this. Most of my cards that I case for Case Me a Christmas card are not Christmas cards, but I make Christmas cards by casing them. But today I'm actually casing a Christmas card. But that's not outside of the rules because there are no rules, really. All right, so I'm starting with this stamp set from Hero Arts. It is called the Hollyberries stamp set. And I have actually used this stamp set before, but I've only used the large image. So this is the very first time that this particular stamp is being inked up. And I can see that the ink is actually beading up on the stamp. So I cleaned off the stamp and then I rubbed it onto my hand to just get rid of some of that manufacturing residue that's sometimes left on the surface of stamps. And after that, it was perfectly fine. So I'm just using my acrylic blocks here to stamp these images because I wasn't entirely sure where I was going to be stamping them. I thought it would be a whole lot easier to move them around than put them in my MISTI. So I'm just using, and these acrylic blocks are from Lawn Fawn. So I'm just sort of making a sort of banner along the middle of my card of these leaves and berries, and I'm using Sapphire ink from Pinkfresh Studio, otherwise known as Michelle Blue. And you'll see why when you see the card that I'm casing. All right, so I'm just finishing up with these little holly berries and leaves, and that'll do me for the stamping. So I'm just going to show you BreAnn's card that I'm casing today. She made a border around the outside of her card using stamps in blues and a blue-green and sort of reddy pink holly berries. And she used some ink blending as well in amongst those leaves. She also put it onto a dark blue card base, which I completely skipped in this card, and she used a background stamp on that card base, and I completely skipped the background stamp as well. But I decided I wanted to use a little bit of ink blending in the middle of this card, so using exactly the same ink that I've just stamped with, I'm just using my life-changing blender brush from Picket Studios. And you can see that you can actually get a very, very light application of ink. So I'm not pressing very hard at all with my blending brush, and I didn't add very much ink at all. Okay, so now I've grabbed some Copic markers, and I'm going to be careful with this. I'm not going to be doing heaps of Copic coloring because the ink that I've used is not Copic safe. It will actually bleed a bit with Copic markers, but that's okay because I'm not going to be going over the Copic colouring a whole lot. I'm just trying to get a little bit of colour down. And the only time I actually added two colours was with these berries. So I used a sort of a mid-pink and a red to give a little bit of dimension to those holly berries. Then I used a blue-green on these little leaves, and then I went in with a sort of mid or slightly darkish blue on the holly leaves. And yeah, really, really simple colouring. You can see I'm not covering the entire leaves. I'm just sort of flicking out my Copic marker so that the colour was more intense in the centre of the leaf and at the base of the leaf, and sort of faded out to white towards the edge. Okay, so the sentiment I'm going to be using is from Picket Studios, the Fancy Christmas Sentiments. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but when I did the stamping, I made a boo-boo. But it's okay because I had this plan for this layout of the card in the first place, and I knew as soon as I did the boo-boo, when one of the stamps did not stamp properly, I knew that it was going to be perfectly fine because I had planned to pop this sentiment up right across the middle of my sort of band across the middle of the card of the stamping. And I knew that this sentiment would actually cover my stamping boo-boo. So I just left it there. I didn't start again. I just thought, yay, nobody's going to see it except for everybody who's watching this video. Oh well. All right, so I cut out my sentiment with the matching dies. I love the fact that these fancy sentiments have these matching dies to go with them. And I decided I wanted to pop it up with a little bit of dimension because the card, at this point, the card is just a 1-layer card. So I wanted to add just a little bit of dimension. So I'm using my Stampin' Dimensionals foam adhesive from Stampin' Up. And I just added a whole lot. Now I started to take the backing off them and then I thought I could add just a little bit more. So I pulled out my Wink of Stella brush and I just added some, I was originally just going to add some shimmer just to the berries, but when I looked at what I was doing with those berries, I thought, that's not enough. I need a bit more. So I actually went over all of the holly leaves, the blue leaves, got a coating of Wink of Stella all over them. And that made me a little bit more happy. And so now that I had a little bit of shimmer, I took the rest of the backing little sheets off of my foam adhesive and adhered that down onto my card. Took a few turns because I wasn't quite getting it centered, so I had to pull it off and try again, and my fingers weren't agreeing with me today, but anyway. And then I decided I needed a little bit more shine, so out pulled my favourite iridescent moonshine sequins. These are also from Picket Studios, and I just used my fingers to move them around and stick them down. Didn't pull out my little sequin tool that I often use, and just stuck them down with some liquid glue. This particular liquid glue that I'm using is from Paper Rose Studio. All right, so that is the card. So a little bit of an up-close view to see the shimmer and the shine. Thank you very, very much for watching. Make sure you go and see what BreAnn has come up with her case of my card, and we'll see you again next time. Bye.